So I don't know. I think we probably should start the meeting, so let's call the meeting to order at 6:03. Please stand for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to a meeting focused on the budget. There's several elements of the budget that will probably come up tonight, some of which we may or may not take action on. So let's start out with public comment. You're the only one here. Thanks for coming.
So as you are thinking about this budget, I hope that everyone has revisited the mission, vision, proposal of PCIA, and that you keep that in mind going forward with the budget. And think about why enrollment might be low and whether the program's actually doing what the vision mission is at this point in time. And what outreach has been done for trying to get new students. So I know in the past, people have gone out to other schools and talked to students and have gone to, I don't know what kind of gathering it was.
It's an alternative school gathering.
Yes, alternative school gathering, and just different things, because Facebook is not gonna draw people. Those flyers, they've been sent out for how many years now, and I don't know how many people have actually come here because of those. So just, I think it's really important to think about, is the program meeting the expectations that people would have of it?
Thanks, Jennifer.
So do you have any suggestions?
I mean, going to other schools, going to maybe different events that are happening where you can have a vendor table. I don't know.
Do I hear noise out there? Does anybody
It's
else?
Tim.
It's here.
Oh, it's Tim. Okay. All right. I think those are all really good comments and maybe further discussion with various folks. Because we need to get creative. I agree. Thank you very much. So I hope everybody has a thinking cap on, and then we'll go right into enrollment updates. Oh, are we just, I can't remember, is this zoomed? No, okay.
It's just recording.
I'm gonna respond to a member of the public that asked if this was being zoomed, and I'm gonna tell them that it's being recorded, but it's not available on Zoom. Since this individual wanted to provide public comment, does anybody have any objection if I tell them they can send another text with a public comment if they want? Since this is public comment time and so Zoom's not available.
I have no objection.
All right, we'll see whether they respond or not.
You better put it on speakerphone.
Well, yeah, if you hand, well, it's a text. text, but
Oh,
we'll see. But that is a good idea.
you can just call and
Call and
speak
put
it
them on.
if they wanted to say.
Well, nowadays, oh, I guess it does show the phone number. Well, let's see what response we get.
Okay,
So we'll go on to, enrollment update, and if we get some comments from that member of the public, then, we'll, see what is the best to do next.
So here are kind of our topics for today, just, as we get started, enrollment, some staffing implications, some possible solutions, and then we've got the budget draft 1, 4, and capital projects. So, here's our enrollment, update. So we are looking, as typical, a little unbalanced as far as like the classes. So right now, the way we sit with students who are in district, currently enrolled that have indicated they're coming back and wait lists. We have 12 in K2. We have 14 in 3-5, and we have 11 in 6 through 8. We have no students on the wait list for grades 6, 7, or 8. So unless we get new interest, we do not have interest in those grade levels. At PCIA, we have 2 seniors next year. We have 2 current 10th graders that will roll into 11th grade and 1 highly likely addition to our 11th grade. Our 9th graders will roll up to 10th grade. And we have 2 9th graders that have put in applications. We've had conversations with others. We've let them know that the enrollment process is open and ready, and we have not gotten a response. So that's where we're sitting currently, and an 8th grader to take algebra.
Do the, Kelly, the different folks that were owls for a day, how many, off the top of your head, can you think how many of those are not accounted for in those numbers? Like, are there 3 or 4 other potentials, or just 1 or 2, or do you know?
I'm trying to think of it specifically in that way. I'm not sure I can answer that exactly, but I can say interest for 9th grade was around 7.
Okay,
So,
so there could be a few more.
that we could grow in 9th graders.
Okay,
We have not had any interest in any of the other grades other than the 11th grader that's counted into these numbers.
and I'm guessing the 8th grader in PCIA is counted twice, or not?
They're
They're
non, mill A.
they're non-mill A.
Yeah.
They would just be here for a class or something.
Correct.
Got it.
So, that number may change also when our partner school, lets us know if they have any students who are ready for high school algebra. But they're like not a full FTE of students, so they depends on what classes they're taking the
Got it.
class.
Okay.
So they count a little bit, but,
Focal?
but as we know, our high school is funded at small high school anyways, so it doesn't really impact that, but just from a count of students in that grade who are taking courses.
and then if I may, and feel free to table this till later in the presentation, but a little bit to Jennifer's point, like, one thing I remember that I felt like was successful in the past, at least it was when like Matthew went through. We did, I think a year, maybe it was 2, where we did a STEAM camp kind of in the summer, which I thought was pretty interesting.
I would love
Takes
to
a
do
lot
that.
of collaboration and coordination, so I don't know if that's doable, but that's just while I'm thinking about that, was another.
Yeah, that'd be
Useful one.
awesome.
What was the camp called?
It's called STEAM Camp after STEM, but I think it incorporated the A for the arts, and it was sort of a summer camp of sorts for over a few days, I think, where I don't know if it was limited. I think it was primarily geared at like 8th graders or anybody who was interested in coming to PCIA, like coming and meeting the instructors, doing activities, science projects. I can't remember what all was involved, but it was like kind of participating in more of a fun way and getting to know the teachers. And
Yeah, and that's a conversation that I had last year, and there wasn't staff didn't feel like there was capacity to put it on. So that doesn't mean that it can't be brought back. It's not something that can be happen this summer. So I think that's definitely part of a long-term plan of building in the capacity for those types of events and getting, participation.
Yeah,
So one thing we could do along that line, Kelly, we could volunteer. Because right now the state is running a kind of a test, a trial run of summer school fully funded, a STEM summer school fully funded by the state. And it is doing the northern part of Clickitat County. And I can't remember the other county, they're doing the whole county and the other county, but the part of Clickitat County doesn't include the west part, the White Salmon Bingen. And they're doing free STEM summer school and fully funded by the state. And this is a trial. I just read about it. This is a trial. We could volunteer to see if they're gonna do a trial next year. We wanna be on the list.
I'd be happy to gauge staff interest in, doing summer school if we can get, fully
I'm
funded.
trying to figure out what that is, but if you send me an email and say, Anita, did you remember where you read that? I might be able to find out, because I was excited at first, because I thought it said Clickitat. Well, it did say Clickitat County, but then I learned it was only, certain school districts on the north boundary of Clickitat County. So if the trial works out and they want more schools,
That would be awesome. I will say the flyers, had a good response last year and they haven't been out that long, so there's hope on that. And,
Was that, I would imagine that type of engagement would be most likely at the freshman level, where kids are choosing their high
yeah,
school
we
path.
actually, I do believe one of our new upperclassmen also from that, so. I know that we have some students who are currently, part of a homeschool network. That we've been working with, helping them have more information to share within their network. So those are some of the things that we've been doing that are out there, but I would definitely be more than happy to gauge staff interest in putting on another STEAM camp or summer school. I think, again, it's gonna come down to their capacity to be able to do that. That's not something that we can do without their support.
right.
Any other questions on enrollment?
when they did that, was it was for kids all over
Well, I'm a little fuzzy on, I think it was directed at
or PCI?
students that were
students? Okay.
interested in coming in. At the
Okay,
time,
okay.
Matthew was an eighth grader, coming to be a ninth
It
grader.
was eighth grade and up
Yeah,
for any kids that were interested
Okay.
in PCIA and our PCIA students.
Okay,
And
thank you.
it was for about a week. I think it was a week.
yeah.
Yeah.
As it happened, I think maybe there was an exception or something. I think Isabella, who I don't know what she would have been at the time, she was a little, but I think she came for a day or two, loved it. I like stuck with her, like, ooh, I like that. That was a cool
Yeah.
experience.
Ready to move on?
Yep.
So with enrollment projections as they are, there are definitely some concerns that come up around scheduling classes with one or two students in them. That's been a concern that's been brought up several times. It's definitely not in the best interest for students or staff. There's some safety concerns in that. So we have some challenges that we're facing. So very small cohorts. Our PCI enrollment is spread across the 4 high school grade levels. None of them are really large enough to support their own like full schedule, right? So we're gonna need to combine grades into a class for many different reasons. Even if we do get some more 8th or 9th grader enrollment, it will help our class size, but it's not necessarily gonna create the need for more upper level courses for juniors and seniors. So unless we can bring in more upperclassmen, even if our enrollment does rise, the freshman courses are kind of the freshman courses. Like there's some flexibility between like robotics and art, but like they need foundational English, they need algebra or geometry, they need Spanish 1, they need like ninth grade English. So there isn't a lot
Mandatory
that,
ninth grade classes by state, right?
they're the prerequisites that the instructors need for those college level courses. So you can't really take a college level biology if you haven't had
Okay.
high school level science. You
Okay, I
Can't jump
see.
straight
Okay.
in, right? Can't jump into English 201 if you haven't taken like writing fundamentals and American lit as a ninth grader. You need those.
It's not like,
basics.
oh, you could take chemistry your junior
Yeah.
year or your senior year, or it's the fundamentals for those classes.
Right, and so one of the things that we've heard a lot this year and had a lot of different conversations with different instructors is for the college level courses that they teach, they want this as the prereq. So if you look through those, science has prerequisites that freshmen have to take, English has prerequisites that freshmen have to take. Math is definitely well mapped out. You can't take pre-calculus until you've taken both algebras and like, right, so. The only thing that a ninth grader schedule might differ on is if they took algebra in eighth grade, they'd be in geometry. Or like, right, that's probably one of the biggest swings. But we already have that within our freshman class, so we're used to it. So in thinking about scheduling, the priority needs to be, making sure that we have the required graduation courses. An example of that is, we have upperclassmen who still need a full credit of PE, which means they have to take 2 semesters of PE in order to get their high school diploma. That has to be a scheduling priority. There is no college level PE to make that up in 1 semester instead of 2. Anyone who needs credit recovery, prioritizing those college and high school and CTE pathways. And then safety, driving the schedule and all of those before the adult assignments can be finalized. So really looking to make sure that our students get the strong course access that they deserve. The operational challenge is how to provide that responsibly with enrollment, and the course demand being where it's at and a little bit uneven. So in order to frame this, I've got some more information just for context on kind of like what that schedule looks like, what those days currently look like for our staff. So a certificated instructional staff, a teacher, their contract is for 7.5 hours per day, 5 days a week. That would be considered a full-time teacher. If they're teaching like content classes. So like our K2, our 3-5 and our 6-8, they're what we call self-contained because they teach multiple subjects. They teach math, science, reading all in the same classroom by the same teacher versus a secondary like content area teacher. So a science teacher teaches science. They teach chemistry, they teach biology, they just teach science, right? So those are kind of the 2 different categories. So for our content area teachers, they're teaching 7 periods per day. So that's the teachers that you would think of as our PCIA instructors. Each period is 50 minutes. And each teacher is guaranteed one of those periods as a preparatory period, which leaves 6 possible courses. And if they teach 2 college and the high school or CTE courses, they get a second prep. So full load for a teacher would be anywhere from 5 to 6 classes.
But do all the teachers have, I mean, do they teach full loads?
She's jumping into the next couple of slides. Thanks for the, so that's where we're going, right? Because enrollment is impacting this a little bit. If we only have 2 seniors, that's pretty tough to schedule classes with 2 kids in it. There are some concerns around that.
Would you go back to that for just a couple of seconds so Jill
Yeah.
can see that, the next,
What-
that, there. So you can see that, that's our projection for 26, 27. And so 2 seniors is not very many students, 3 seniors are not very many.
So we have 2 seniors, we have 2 11th graders for sure, and 1 that we think will be coming, so, right? We'll have 6 10th graders, and right now we have 2 people who expressed interest in attending 9th grade at PCIA. So our enrollment at the secondary and at the K8 level are looking like they'll be down next year.
Thanks, Kelly, I appreciate that.
Okay, so to Joan's question that she just asked, looking at the scheduled draft where we're at, we have, 5 full-time instructors and a half-time instructor who, after their preparatory periods and the courses that students need and have expressed interest in, all have open periods. An open period would be a non-instructional, non-preparatory time in their schedule.
And
So
it's- An open period also isn't a study hall.
it is not, they have
Okay.
no responsibilities
Okay.
at all. So, let's say you've got a teacher who's teaching 2 college classes. So they get 2 preps, so that's 4. And if they only have 1 other class, that means they would have 2 50-minute periods of their day with no responsibilities. No students assigned to them, and it isn't prep for their coursework.
They only have one class that they're teaching, so they only have one prep. Is that what
They
you're
get
saying?
1 prep per day, so out of the 7 periods, they always have 1 preparatory period, one where it's their opportunity to prepare for class.
No matter what their class.
No matter what their class load is. If they're teaching 2 college level classes or 2 CTE classes, then they get a second preparatory period.
Okay.
And then the rest would typically be spent doing instruction, like teaching a class. So as it sits currently on the draft with the enrollment that we have, the courses that our students need to graduate and the ones that they've expressed interest in, we have 14 open periods per full school day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. One possible solution would be to expand what our secondary content area teachers are teaching by giving them a class that is within their endorsement. As a secondary teacher, you're endorsed through 6 through 12. So by adding a 8th grade math or an 8th grade ELA or an 8th grade science, or 8th grade history, that would reduce the number of open periods down to 8 per day, which means we would add 6 50-minute blocks of instruction for our students. And we would be providing our staff with that much more instructional time. Full-time position.
Sounds like a good idea.
Thanks, we'll see. So the other thing that it does that you can't really see on this, in this description, is that by moving those students into a contained class, like a math class or an English class, it lowers the burden on on Jennifer in 6-8, because now she's got at least a third of her class who is getting instruction by a certificated teacher, which means she doesn't have to try to teach all 3 grades at the same time. So every student in that class has increased instructional time with the teacher. So if I've got my 7th graders out and my 8th graders out, then I have an entire 50 minutes just to focus on instruction on my 6th grader, which means all 3 grades are getting direct instruction from a teacher for that time period. Am I explaining that well? Is
Makes
that
sense.
at least, okay. So from a budget perspective, here are some of the numbers that make this a budget consideration. So thinking about the cost of unscheduled open periods. And again, these are the schedules for Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, because Wednesday is different. So we're not looking at those schedules yet. This doesn't count their protected prep, their lunch, required meetings, or anything like that. So the purpose of this information is really just to make sure that we're talking about staffing alignments. It has nothing to do with how amazing our teachers are, because they're all amazing, they're all great. We just want to make sure that when we budget, we're budgeting in a responsible way. So the average annual salary for 5 secondary content area positions is just over $98,000 per year. Which means each day they're making $547. So their hourly rate is just under $73 an hour. So in a 50-minute period, that's 0.8 of an hour, right? So if we have 14 open periods per day, that's a substantial amount of salary that is not going to student instruction or prep. And here is what that would look like. So without providing the full-time secondary staff with an extra course for 6th through 8th graders, that leaves 1,680 open hours in school. And the cost for that is $122,000 in salary of unscheduled non-instruction time.
Of course. Do we need all those instructors? Cause maybe we'll have the ones that we have teach more.
So we have amazing staff, and I would like to utilize them to their skill set to the best of our ability.
And we can't
And
take
we
our,
can't-
we can't take our high school,
Away,
like, well, no, and we can't take our high school science teacher and have them teach English, right? They're all hired in their specific area.
Because they basically were hired to teach at college level. And then we did what we needed to do to ensure they were certified to teach the high school required classes for high school graduation.
so when we did that,
In their subject
Yeah.
of expertise.
when we did that part that allowed them to become a teacher for those high school classes, they went through the same as any other teacher who gets their teaching certificate. And at the secondary level, you do that in like an endorsement field. So like math, like if you are a secondary math teacher, you have a teaching certificate to teach math, right? And so the thing that gives us flexibility is that secondary endorsements are considered grades 6 through 12. And then the way the endorsements work now, most of them actually cover K-12, but we wouldn't want someone who is accustomed to teaching college to try to teach anything else. Like that doesn't make sense. But a typical secondary teacher would span grades 6 through 12. And that would include AP classes in a more traditional high school, or sometimes college and the high school classes as well. So they would be in that situation where they could be teaching any of those courses as well. But they have a specific content. So like they're saying, we can't ask our math teacher to suddenly start teaching Spanish. And we need all of the different content areas.
What is our average enrollment every year, the average?
It's fluctuated quite a bit at PCIA. I could look it up for you. I don't know.
I just wondered.
So,
We're low now, right?
We are, yeah.
Oh, we've been lower,
A
Oh,
lot
yeah.
lower.
we've been lower, but
So-
yeah, I think part of what's affecting us is the 2025 class was 11.
Yep.
And that's what they ended at. That started higher than that. That was our biggest class that went through PCIA. And so then when they left, that really kind of left a hole. And then to boot, I think the succeeding, let's say, 2 classes behind them were relatively low numbered. That being said, yeah, like historically, since the program founding, we've had some low years, but yeah, anyway.
He says,
So
it's
the-
Definitely bounced around.
So the public comment that we have is applicable to this subject that. You guys want to share?
she was asking when we launched, we
What
had
enrollment was.
we had 2 juniors.
A good question,
Yeah,
I think it was
we had,
4.
I think it was 4. We had 4 or 5 the very first year we did it.
2017.
Yeah.
So in this discussion of, we've been using the word secondary, which, isn't used when you're talking about PCIA, but in reality, that is secondary and does go down to 6th grade, and that is what they're licensed for. But so concerning that, I don't want to respond to this specifically, but it is something that as we have discussions, you would want to have in your mind. So here's the public comment. The proposal to have PCIA teachers who were hired to teach college courses now be forced to add middle school courses is not a good use of our expertise and training. It's also not what we were hired to do, nor what we want to do. I would be happy to include advanced eighth graders in my ninth grade course, but planning and teaching an additional class for 6 through 8 is not what I signed up to do as a college level instructor. That would be very, very large age group and is outside the specialty that I was selected to teach. Although I have multiple additional college courses that both students and I would like to see offered at PCIA, these would ensure that we are offering the unique and rigorous education for our high school students that PCIA aims to offer. But I won't be able to offer these if I'm forced to teach middle school courses during my spare class periods. Thank you for allowing me to offer this public comment and proposal for PCIA, comments on this proposal for PCIA instructors. And that's, that's understandable, but let's go on.
Who was it?
I'm not gonna say who it was. Yeah, I don't have permission to give out the name.
Oh, okay.
But obviously it's an instructor. Doesn't make any difference who it is, that's how one instructor feels.
Sure, sure.
So can they teach something else? Like not a required course, but something optional?
If they're certified to teach
They can-
that.
they
they've got
can.
the endorsement from the
If we
state
have a
to teach
student
that.
available to take it. So
But where are these kids when the teachers are in there?
they're in a different class. So if you're taking a science class that with a lab, that's 2 periods. Okay. We want to offer our students enrichment, so like art and things like that, which students want, art or band, right? They need English, they need math. Especially our students who are trying to earn their associate's degree, they need 19 college classes during their high school career, right? And so, yes, a teacher is qualified to teach like 5 different science classes. But if most of them are college level, we don't have enough students to take 4 different college level science classes in the same semester. So we would teach a college level class this semester and then a different college level class the next semester. And over a junior and senior year, that student would have 4 different college level classes because they would have 4 semesters. But what they aren't going to do is take 2 college level sciences in the same semester. So what happens is we have 4 or 5 different college level options per discipline, and they get spread out over a couple of different semesters, ensuring that kids have access to all of them. Does that kind of make sense? So typical freshmen would start their day in like right now would be like PE, right? PE health. And then they might go to math, and then they would go to English, and then they would go to Spanish, and then they would go to like we're expanding one instructor's courses to include kind of it's like a business class, but it's more about like organization, like helping like high school readiness, but it would fall into like a business elective. What did I miss? And then a science class. And then one of the benefits of the 7-period day is that they have the opportunity to take 2 enrichment courses, and then they might end their day in band. So there is not space in that schedule to take multiple classes of the same discipline. And then also when our students do start to get into college level classes, those are 5-credit college level courses. And if they're taking more than 4 in a semester, that's way too many credits. Like 3 college level classes in a semester is 15 credits. They're 16 years old. That's a big lift. And what we heard was they were burnt out. They were exhausted. They felt like they had way too much to do. And so we've tried really hard to make sure that our students are being able to focus in on their learning, not just trying to take every class at the same time and burning themselves out. So striking that balance.
I'm curious what this instructor, he suggested, or she, that there were other classes that they were qualified to teach and were available to teach. But
I think part of
what are
the,
they?
so what I hear is, part of the problem is that we don't have as, and I don't know if this is true or not, as many students as we have had in the past who are choosing to take college level classes. We have many students who don't want to take the college level class.
Oh.
And so I think that might, the students are asking for some of these specialty classes that we've even had in the past. True that is, but
Let's compare last year when we had 11 seniors and 3 juniors. 4 juniors? Let's just call it 3. We had 14 juniors and seniors. Okay, now we can offer, right? Now I've got kids that might want to take this college English or this college English. Right? Now I have 4 kids in those grade levels.
Right. To boot, to your earlier point you made a minute ago, this is why I believe scheduling is like really complicated, even in a small school. Because each student is different. But I think some of the feedback from the past was too that we really burned students out by the end of their sophomore year. We loaded them up with these college classes through their sophomore year. And there was kind of a high burnout effect. It wasn't as balanced. And so I think that speaks to some of the challenge of fitting everything right? You have these pockets of, okay, in this class, we only have two students, in this one we have 8 kids in this graduating class. It's like, it's hard to piece it all together, I think, and we've had these pockets and missing things, and it's kind of always shifting.
And that's the importance of not creating any instability in a teacher being here full time, right? Because next year we could have, like, the enrollment could look different and we could need more of them. So how do we ensure that we're keeping our teachers whole and being fiscally responsible with what we're paying them? And so the thought is not to give them a middle school class where they're teaching 6, 7, and 8, but an 8th grade class, right? An eighth grade pre-algebra class where they're just teaching in their content with, 4 or 5 8th graders that would then be building relationships with our PCIA instructors, having an opportunity to see like, oh, I can do it. And kind of working towards that idea that PCIA was here for our local students. And starting that route, that pipeline a little bit earlier to the point of like, what are we doing to recruit students? Like, how are we helping them move from here into PCIA? How are we building those relationships early? That's one of the thoughts behind this idea.
Yeah, and I think, again, just to emphasize the point, I think it's difficult, but ideally, yeah, we would have kind of a, I don't know what it is. I think I've heard you say, Kelly, it's 8, 10, maybe a dozen kids each year coming into that freshman class. You're sort of filling up each class or each graduating class with a full slate of folks, knowing you're probably gonna lose some people along the way, maybe you add, but probably the target is like 40, right? Like if we had 10 in each graduating class, we had 40 students, that would probably be something like a sweet spot for us. At least based on where we're at.
And we started this year with 9 freshmen and we have 6, right? And we can't control everything. We can't control mental health problems and we can't control families moving. We can't control that. But if we're rolling in classes of around 9 or 10, we're going to end up with good solid cohorts around 6 to 8 over the span of the time. And then we're not in this position anymore. Because if we have 16 upperclassmen, now we do need a couple of science level classes, but that's not the position we're looking at next year. Unless we get a lot more upperclassmen. Because like I said, even if we get that magic 10 for freshmen, they still need freshman level classes. And we don't need to run 2 sections of Algebra 1 and split 10 kids up.
Right, like, I mean, I don't know, but I think in general, we need some sense of flexibility because we're small and yeah, like if we could be so fortunate as to have 8 to 10 new freshmen starting next year, that would be good, but you're right, that's gonna then kind of cluster a group there that we'll have to manage and then they'll work through. Um. You know, and then supposing we had 12 that came through and they work through the next 3 years. We'll have them, but then maybe for some reason, 3 years from now, we have a really small incoming group, 2 to 3. Well, that's probably gonna shift the scheduling needs in that freshman year, right? So. In general, yeah, we do need some flexibility around this to ride these waves, given that we're kind of a very small, like, small changes can make a big impact for
Yeah.
us.
And in perspective also about like the age and maturity of students, so over the course of PCI, we've had several students that like either just went from 7th to 9th grade or had skipped a grade, right? So like from a developmental standpoint, like we've had lots of students that are chronologically 8th grade in 9th grade classes. So while yes, there can be a maturity difference between a 9th grader and a 6th grader, what we're looking at, what I'm suggesting tonight is that we add 8th grade courses unless an instructor volunteers. And we do have one who is like, I'll take a 6th grade section, like they're good. So we could give them the 6th grade section that they're asking for. And then use the other instructors to teach 8th grade, helping fill some of those open slots in their schedule. And then get creative with how we fill some of the other ones. And maybe it is working on partnerships and internships in a scheduled way, but it is a challenge budget wise to look at having that many unscheduled hours of, payrolls, like, right, essentially.
So if we were to do that, for example, let's say we had, we were going to have a science class for all of our 8th graders. It would have to be all 8th graders. It wouldn't be by student choice on whether they wanted to take, it would have to be all, because otherwise Jennifer would be teaching 8th grade science and someone else would be teaching 8th grade science. And so it would have to be all 8th graders.
And we did adopt curriculum that would cover math and ELA and history. So we have science curriculum that is ready to be reviewed, ready to go. So like the curriculum is already been adopted by the board as well.
So let me understand, when you were putting up the numbers,
This one,
yeah, the way I'm reading that is not that we would have that much savings on our school budget,
no.
but that we are spending that amount of money that there isn't a student benefit for.
Correct.
And I think that's a more complex question than just raw time. We've had this discussion before where a teacher was falling below full-time thresholds. And we do want to provide stability to our teachers. We want, it's hard to find somebody and tell them, oh, you're getting half-time this year, 3/4 time next year. You can't, and if the load goes up, then you're gonna have to be full-time and you need to reserve that time for us, but we're not gonna pay you for it. That's not a fair situation to anyone. And so I don't view it, with the exception of like, we need one music class or something special on that front when we brought in an outside music teacher. I don't view that as a cost savings. And what the board did in at least one other previous situation is say, we value providing the opportunity to find a way to use that teacher for something else to move them to full-time, which I think is responsible if we can afford it on the budgetary standpoint, because it helps us retain talented, valuable teachers. The question seems to be that you're getting some pushback, or at least in one case. And the concern is more around the content that they're being asked to teach rather than that they're being asked to teach something else. Is that an accurate restatement?
I think that they're concerned about teaching 8th grade, I think.
Well, I heard 6th grade. That's what I
Okay,
was
well,
told.
it's 6 through 8.
I think there are some conversations that are yet to need to be had. That would clarify some questions for folks.
And I guess I would be in general be in favor of bringing all the value we can to our students for what we are spending. the nuance of what that looks like. Whether that is, hey, we can bring more value to our high school students by offering an additional option. Or we can offer a better experience to our middle school. I don't really have a good feel
Right.
for what that
I-
is, but I think that's what I'm
If we
understanding you
had,
say.
if we had students who were, if we had, so in years past, one of the things that I've heard is that students had spent a lot of time in study hall, and we were looking to increase like additional options for them, right? That was some feedback I've heard about in years past. Like my kid spends 3-4 hours a day in study hall. So that's a different problem. Now, when I look at the schedule and I look at what students are interested in and what students need for graduation, I think we have two study halls. One has one kid in it, and I think the other one might have two. So we don't have students who have unscheduled time to put in any additional classes because they're in the classes that they either need to graduate or they told us they want. So it's not an instructor problem. Our instructors are amazing. They have a great amount of things that they can teach. They know their content like incredibly well. I just don't have students to give them. I don't have students to say, teach these kids right now, because they only need so many science credits, whether it's for their high school diploma or their associate's degree. They only need so much English and so much history, right? And they sometimes don't have an interest in taking a 6th science credit. Sometimes they don't want that. And what they really want is PE and art. And so we can give them PE and art, and that's where they want, and they don't need the other one, even though we could offer it. But I have no student to put in it. Does that right? If nobody is available to take a class, then it's not gonna get onto the schedule.
So the recruiting, is that mostly focus on PCIA instead of Millie's?
Yeah, we really
Grade
don't
school.
wanna recruit from LA school, cause we pretty much get really close to our maximum.
I was thinking maybe if we had more kindergarten through 8th graders, the more years they spent here, they'd be more
And
apt
that's a
to-
really good point, and that's something we've talked a lot about, is that, you know, we want our students to go up through Millay School thinking that, you know, they can go to PCIA, this is their school, we want them to go there. You know, we have some students that really fell behind in their accomplishments because we had some students that didn't have a real good experience in their 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade classroom. And so we want those students to be proud of themselves and know PCIA is an option for them. So you're absolutely right. That's really important. We just have to be careful we don't overload those classrooms with 3 grades in one classroom and one teacher. But taking the 8th graders, and the instructor here just refers to 8th grade teaching, not 6 through 8.
Okay.
And I realize that would be a real a whole new situation, you know, putting together the whole plan on how to teach an 8th grade class versus, and this is just me, I have no clue, but if I'm teaching a college 101 or 102 college class in a subject, being able to adjust that to, I'm teaching those to freshmen, but adjust that to a freshman who doesn't want to take the college level would be a lot easier than going back down another grade where you're teaching all kids at the 8th grade level, not stretching them to the college level.
I would say, right, though, most, if not all, of our 9th grade offerings are non-college. They're like kind of pre-rec
Yeah,
normal high
I think
school.
you're right.
But yeah, I see that point.
Yeah, they're getting their mandatory classes out of the way.
And again, the wonderful thing about the steps that the board has taken in the last couple of years is that there's adopted curriculum. So it would be a matter of, here's the curriculum and some time
Okay.
to examine it. So our K through 5 teachers this year all were handed a brand new ELA curriculum, and then did a couple of, like, throughout the year, did a couple of meetings with the curriculum development company, but like on day one, it was like, here you go. Open the teacher's manual and teach, like, right, because they know the content. Same thing with, like, I think about like math. If you're teaching algebra 1 and 2, you definitely understand pre-algebra. Like, right, so like if the content, if the scope and sequence is laid out for you and there's a workbook and all, you don't have to learn the content, you know it. If I walked into a pre-algebra class and tried to teach it, I would have to learn the content, like relearn the content. It wouldn't just come natural to me. And so we're not saying like, you teach math, now go teach eighth graders history, that you don't, it's your content. Just at with a different scope and sequence. It's the
Okay.
prerequisite skill to what they're teaching ninth graders.
Okay, great, thank you.
So, I mean, the goal really is to figure out a way to be fiscally responsible to maintain 1.0 FTE. To have our teachers, not to put them in a position where this year we don't have enough, next year we might, I don't think that would be a great plan. I think what we need to do is get a little creative in these lean times to find a way to say, like, we value you, we want you here. This is what we need in order to continue to operate in this model with this level of staffing.
And if we can do some media stuff that emphasizes students of any grade level, you know, are welcome PCIA, you know, come join us, you're a junior, come join us, you know.
Well, it feels like a little bit, depending on how that's done and how it was approached from staff. If that's a good experience for the kids, that could actually be a good recruiting tool on like, hey, let's start interacting. Let's start, and we did, you know, when Jennifer says look back at our documents, we did talk about like the benefit to younger kids of having these instructors here, having that in place. I think, man, the devil's in the details on how it's implemented and how it's done, right? If the kids are, if it's like something that is a nice change and a positive experience for the kids and kind of like a chance to dip their toe into the water of like what the experience is there in a non-threatening, not full engagement type of way, that could be really good. The concern would be if people are forced to do it grudgingly, then that's not going to be a good experience for the kids or the teacher. And then I would hope that that's not where we would end up with our staff. That's part of like how it would be implemented.
Well, I think that. And I think that that's a good point that you bring up, because it's something new, it's something different. It may not be what they choose to do. But our students are really important. And our school's really important. And I don't think anybody wants to lose our school.
Right.
I will say I have spoken to a few parents that this would impact and had very, very positive responses. One shared with me that their student currently is getting instruction in math and ELA from a different adult, and that it's been wonderful because the parent feels like it's so great that their student is having this great experience in their classroom and then spending an hour getting instruction at their grade level in math, and then a different hour getting instruction at their grade level, like in reading, and has seen the benefit of that many more direct instructional minutes. Felt like that was really a positive thing. That was a really wonderful comment to hear that it had been positive. And we saw that with Mr. Harrison teaching eighth grade history, there was a lot of really good relationships built there. And so I think that change is hard and change can be shocking. But if we can get to a place where we're building our own pipeline and building relationships, I think that could be a really positive thing.
Well, I think to your point, it's going to depend on on the individual instructor. You know, because we don't,
Well, I would hope that both sides of that equation, right? To be curious, you know, if somebody's not at FTE level of instruction, I would hope that they would feel. I don't, what would you do if the teacher said, well, I'd rather not be at FTE, at a one FTE, I'd rather be at a low level rather than be forced to teach.
That would be
Another
that
class.
would be their choice.
Right.
And then we would just adjust the schedule. That would be a choice that they have the right to make. I mean,
We're not forced, yeah, but I do feel like we need to. In any way possible, give the opportunity.
yeah, I would
To
hate
be
to
full-time.
put teacher between a rock and a hard place. I mean, it could be really destructive to us if we do that.
Yeah.
I think too, you know, the way I look at it is, you know, PCIA and what it offers our community is so, as I've said time and time again, I think it's so important. The strength that it brings to the school and the unique, I think it's a unique thing both for our students and our kids. And I think it's unique for our instructors too. I think for everybody who gets to work there, I think there's some unique things. And to what I said a minute ago, I think probably having flexibility as we figure out how to ride these ups and downs of the enrollment is gonna be paramount, and I think we have to look at it kind of in the long run of we're trying to build the strongest program we can. And so I just think flexibility is key, and Frank, I mean, that's something I think I mentioned, like, I think we have to be diligent in how we're getting kids, the recruiting thing, I just think is very key, and making sure that we're making room for as many kids as we can while holding to some of the principles we've talked about with having the right kids here. But yeah, we've got to work on the pipeline, and I think we have to have some unique things like the STEAM camp, some other things that are going to require some effort on everybody's part. But I think it contributes to PCIA, you know, sustaining for the long term. And without that, like if it's just, yeah, I think if we get too locked into a very regimented approach where this is what we've done and this is only what we can do, I don't think that's going to work well.
And I wasn't saying like. Rock in a hard place, I'm saying, I don't feel like we need to look at our fiscal responsibility to our constituents, to school, to everything.
Yeah.
And at some level, we need to look at how we can responsibly. Offer ways to utilize. Those teachers, and I would agree with John, I don't think it necessarily has to be. Super. Regimented, I mean, I think this is a place where those teachers probably could be part of the conversation. On what that looks like, what that is, we're not gonna automatically. Offer some off the wall class, at some point, there's like, well, we have this option. Or this option. Or if you would prefer, and this is not like set as a punishment, maybe somebody would, you know, I don't need this. I don't need to be here for full time. And rather than taking on something else and something extra, I'd rather have more flexibility in my schedule. But if that was the wish, then I think we should talk about that. In most cases, I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming that the stability of full-time, of being an FTE is what's valued. But as anybody who have worked with employees know, people aren't the same. Not everybody values the same thing.
Yeah, and I think the assumption, I have that too, that everybody needs their salary because they're putting shoes on their kids' feet. But I do think that you brought up earlier that there are some creative things that some of our instructors could be doing in their free times that would benefit PCIA in the long run and benefit students too. So I think that if we're real creative along that line, as well as creating along the way of trying to obtain new students in all of our grades.
and I think the schedule as we've drafted it allows for both, because even with adding that 8th grade section. all but one of the instructors would still have an open period, so that it wouldn't completely fill the 7 periods of the day, right? They'd still have the prep and then 4 to 5 classes, not 6. So they would still have one open period that could be used for those things. It could be used for building those connections for STEAM camp. It could be used for I was talking to someone today about a partnership with the Smithsonian that the open period could be used. So it still allows for some of that flexibility.
Let me ask this, because I don't know if you thought about it, addressed it, probably knowing you. But how many? How many new classes are we adding at most to an instructor? Because the other thing I think we need to be careful about and look into is, well, maybe not 2 at once.
One,
Right?
it's one.
It's at most
It
one
is
new,
at most one.
it's at
It
most
is
one.
all, the schedule would incorporate all classes that have been taught previously and one
New thing.
new thing. Nobody is one person is being asked to teach more than one section of not 9 through 12. And they're aware and they get it, and they're also new to the team. So
But if there were new things that an instructor wanted to teach, that would be something that when the student is going through their team mentor all the time, that class could be, suggested as an option.
And a lot of time has been spent going through content areas and saying, what are the courses you like? What are the courses you want to teach? What do we want our course offerings to be? How can we build those out? What classes can we offer on an biannual basis so that we can get juniors and seniors into that college level course? And then the next year we can get them into so we can get 4 college options in your content area over their junior and senior year. So I have a map from most of the instructors on that. I have a science map. I have a ELA map. I have math is kind of just math. Math doesn't have as many options, but right. So we have that. We know what the math questions are. We know what the English courses that our preference are. We know the science courses, even down to the prerequisites, and it's all mapped out. We just don't have students to put in them. I don't have students to put in 3 different college level classes right now. Right, we're just in this weird, and again, the last thing I want to do is start yo-yoing, telling people that we're gonna yo-yo your FTE. That's not good. That is that is not at all what I think the best solution is. Is it a possible solution? Of course it is. Is it a good people solution? I don't think it is.
What does yo-yo?
Well, I don't want to tell someone we don't have enough for you to be full-time this year. So we need to reduce your hours, and then next year be but now we have enough. I don't think that's a good way to treat our staff. I would rather say we value you as a full-time employee. This year, we don't have quite enough of the typical work. So we're gonna use this to keep you as a full-time employee and help us build some prerequisites in our 8th graders who then might be ready to be 9th graders. Because then if we can roll in 4 8th graders from here and we can find 4 from outside, we've got a class of 8 instantly built. And they've already got relationships. They understand structures and routines that those teachers have. They're comfortable and some of those other benefits.
It's hard to know, what level of the resistance is just resistance to change. What level is, and what level is, man, in 8th grade, you have there's a lot of changes in behavior between 8th and 9th and 10th grade, right? And so that a teacher that's good at 10, 11, 12, maybe more of a challenge at 9th and even more of a challenge at 8th. And it would be a big challenge at 7th. I remember myself through those years, and it's, different ways of acting up, different behavioral classroom control strategies, all of those things. And I don't know, but it's also when you bring something like this forward, there's a natural reticence and a natural fear at the end of it. So figuring out all those things. A lot are,
So
it's hard to know.
would it help at all if we said, for example, to the eighth graders, we just would take the highly capable eighth graders and put them into a class taught by a PCIA instructor rather than taking the entire class? Do we have that variety and capacity and ability and desire?
I think that it would not create the intended benefit for the
Okay.
rest of the sixth and seventh graders. Because it would leave the same,
It would still, yeah, right,
it'd leave the same course load.
yeah, okay.
What about? So what we're talking about, we're talking about math. English, history,
Science.
Science and history and
math, English, science and history.
Yeah.
Roughly. Okay, and so the question is, are you teaching all eighth graders math? Or are you doing, like. Targeted pods around special subjects with a group of them that fits into that. I can see benefits.
Yeah,
To both.
that's kind of what I was.
I can see benefits to both types of approaches that would reduce the room in the classroom. What it doesn't do is. Now. Jennifer has those kids outside of her classroom for something, and all that other material still needs to be covered.
So, yeah, so you'd have eighth graders in the 6 through 8 classroom taking science, for example, with the sixth and seventh graders.
which you can't do.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and it doesn't, yeah, exactly, and then it still does not get at the heart of the, I am not comfortable teaching eighth grade, because it would still be. Whether they're academically
Yeah,
gifted or
and I
not, that
think
doesn't
that's
necessarily mean they're not gonna act like 14-year-olds. And I will say, the cohort that we're talking about. Would be this would be a solid. Group of kiddos. This is not one where I'm like, oh, we're gonna need to do a lot of, classroom management training. That is not, if it's requested, I'd be happy to provide it, but it is not something that I think we would need of. So I guess my ask from the board would be to get the comfort level on the direction of understanding what we're paying out in wages in comparison to potential workload options. As far as like, we're offering this much in wages. We have a way to have the workload close to full and pay full. We have the option of saying, don't have enough work for you. So your workload needs to be adjusted. That is definitely not my recommendation. Or if the board is comfortable with a amount of wage that does not align with the amount of work being asked for.
well, I would be very hesitant to create a situation where we would be forcing a PCI instructor to teach, forcing them to teach eighth grade. If they choose to do so, that would be different. But I also think we need to keep our current instructor level, because I think that if we don't have that next year, then we're not doing our job. We need to get more students.
Yeah, I don't,
If we have the same dilemma next year, shame on us. Because we're not taking enough effort. Well, Kelly has done a variety of videos and we've done mailings, but we all aren't going out and talking to other people in other places and trying to make sure that parents and students know that there's a very unique opportunity in Skamania County.
Does it save the parents a lot of money for the kids go to here instead of going into the college, they're paying all the way?
2 years worth of college expenses.
So.
2 years, not only
I
of
think that
tuition,
was
but
where-
room and board and all of that.
and in some cases, that's really good. It comes with its own trade-offs. But yeah,
It's like there's $30,000.
oh yeah.
Easily.
What,
Per kid.
Jessica?
It saved us $30,000 per kid.
Wow.
At least,
Mhm.
yeah.
Depending on.
Yeah, I think huge benefit.
Well, I wouldn't be comfortable. Here's the three things I'm not comfortable with, right? I'm not comfortable forcing a teacher to pay, to teach eighth grade. I'm not comfortable, forcing a teacher to reduce their hours. And I'm also not comfortable spending our school resources to just have an open period. And so we have a couple of options, and maybe there's another option. But just offering another class, there's no kids to take those class, doesn't solve any of those other issues, and so.
I think that we can say that you know, a teacher that has, you know, more than two or more than whatever open period, that we have other things that, they could do. For example, I don't know if I'll articulate it very well, but for example, that instructor can use that time to try to develop some unique opportunities for future students, maybe even to do things like PCIA was originally set up for, to have mentors and internship, and I'm not sure I'm using the right words, but you'll remember the words that are in there for students to be able to do that, like once a week, go over to the fisheries research lab and shadow a scientist. Go down, these are close, where, because transportation is an issue for students who want to do those kinds of things, but we have a van, we can take them. But it does take more time out of their school day. So maybe we would look at having those people come in and having, anyway, they can use their time to do some exploration of unique opportunities that were originally envisioned with PCIA, or brand new opportunities that we could offer. And so maybe that kind of thing can be done in that spare
They
time.
might have some ideas what they can do too.
Well, that's exactly right. Let's give them the freedom to be. Think outside the box.
I feel like, yeah, and what we're doing should benefit the school, should benefit our kids. Our PCIA kids or our K through 8 kids. I do see a lot of value in increasing the touch points between the PCIA and kids who are prospective to come to
Mhm.
the high school in probably eighth grade mostly, but I think what we're talking about is basically adding the equivalent of one classroom period a day for a lot of these kids. And so if there's other options that would bring that level of value, I don't know if they are, but I wouldn't be against them if our administration, we as a board, and the teachers wanted to say, here's what I'd like to do. And we said, you know what, that'd be the same benefit to our kids as what we've discussed. Okay.
There's capacity in the schedules for both. There's capacity for adding the eighth grade and still having
Sure.
open period to explore those options. I'm not entirely sure.
That we're shutting that down.
Well, I'm not shutting
Yeah,
that down. I've already had that conversation with one instructor. We already have a full plan worked out. Like, we're good to
Yeah.
go. Like, I was like, you have this much time unscheduled in your, like, what do you
Yeah.
think? And we've had that conversation and we already know what the ask is. It was an idea they brought to the table. I said, that's awesome. That is absolutely how you can use that time, like, right, absolutely. There's capacity in the openings for both of those in those schedules. I'm a little unsure how it would work if it wasn't a staff generated idea as far as from
No, I think it should be.
but like if they don't have an idea and there's just an open period, I'm not really sure what that might look like if they have 2 or 3 open periods and we don't fill one with a course and they're not comfortable taking on an assigned task. That's, I think, where I start to have questions about, like, what would we want to do?
Yeah. And
Well, it's Joan.
Could the kids in their free period do any recruiting? I mean, is there some way for them to
The instructors,
Well, the kids.
The kids.
they don't have any free
The
period.
study hall, that's the only.
Kids don't have any free period.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one thing, it's a unique situation that we have right now. We have school districts everywhere reduced less students, fewer and fewer students. Whether they're going to private schools, religious schools, homeschool, whatever, or not going to school at all. It's reduced everywhere. And then we have more of a generation coming up that I think maybe we don't have as many students that are looking as far out in their future as with opportunities as maybe students have in previous generations. And I'm of the attitude, that when we're here and we don't care about students and students are first, the age old saying is everybody is on board when it comes to safety and security. Everybody is on board when it comes to retaining and gaining students, because without that, we don't have a school. We don't have PCIA, we don't have an elementary school either, period. So I think that instead of looking at we have to look at all the little pieces, but we need to be united in the fact that this is a wonderful opportunity for students here and making sure that that's known. And this opportunity will go away and there's nothing like it anywhere else.
I think if you cut the professors' hours, you're gonna have a lot of upset professors.
I think that's.
Well, that kind of my big speech. But, it's really scary. It's very scary right now. And we've had financial issues before.
It's not
And we've
fun
had up and downs with students,
before.
pardon?
No, it's not fun when you're
Yeah,
like trying
no,
to,
isn't at all.
but I think Kelly's right in that it's not responsible to have 2-3 hours a day and still pay full time for that.
Yeah.
That's not a full time situation. And there's ways to bring value, and she has suggested some ways to bring value. And I feel like if there's other ways, then, and what she's saying is she's not even bringing it to a full course load.
Mhm.
She's bringing it to one below a full post course load and asking for some opportunities there. I don't, and is the other classes that teachers are wanting to teach, there's just not room for the students to take with them.
There's
next.
students to take on,
Right.
like, right?
They
So
already
we've got-
they already have full schedules. They don't have free periods to
We
take.
don't
other
have,
courses.
kids in study halls that we could plug in if we added another course. We just don't. We have I have a study hall that has one kid in it and every teacher's teaching that period when we put the slide puzzle that is the schedule together. And believe me, it takes a lot of hours to get all of it put together, and it's still, there are some limits to the enrichment opportunity that a few of our kiddos are gonna take just because we needed to do like a block schedule for something, and the only place we can fit it interrupts one of the enrichment courses.
To what extent does this problem exist now, or if we can think back to last year? I'm sort of curious, like is the open period situation unique to just what we see next year, or I think it's a thing now to a certain extent.
It is most certainly been a more ongoing thing. Than I think it has had attention calls to it. There are quite a few of these periods happening this year.
Yeah,
There was enough, that change with the structuring of the schedule that it seemed appropriate to have maybe some extra plan time built in as teachers were having to break apart longer lessons into shorter lessons.
Yeah.
I will say, if one of the questions was, well, wouldn't the block schedule fix this? If you're teaching 3 classes, you're teaching 3 classes. Over a block, there's just as many periods. You're just doing it for 2 periods on Monday and no periods on Tuesday, right? The number of periods exists. It's just how the instructional minutes are being broken out.
Mhm.
So it doesn't solve the problem. It continues to have the same number of instructional minutes.
So Kelly.
So the problem has existed in some sense now. think we're trying to react to the problem. And again, I think my big point is, I just hope we can all come to it with, yeah, some sense of flexibility and trying to create a win for PCIA and ride these different ups and
These
downs.
challenging years.
I just think that's so important for everybody to have an eye on.
So Kelly, are you feeling comfortable? You have a good feel for the board? Do you need something specific from us, or are you comfortable moving ahead?
I do not. I feel like I have an understanding that the board has expressed interest in keeping teachers whole with as close to full course loads as is reasonable, and offering some options as far as which way they would like to
Well,
proceed.
let's take a quick break here. Where are we in this? We'll be coming back with item 5.
Yes.
Okay. I'll pick it up later. Thank you, Jessica, for getting that.
Draft 1.0, is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Okay, in front of you, you have 2 pieces of paper. There are some available over there. The draft 1.0 is the one that just has a whole bunch of numbers on it. It's not the pretty colorful one. It's just walking you through some of the account descriptions and 25, 26 versus 26, 27. Pull my slideshow back up.
So does this mean we think we'll have qualified for free meals next year?
Yes,
100%? Okay.
So yeah, you can see some things like SRSA is going down. We're budgeting less for breakfast. Just some really small changes on here. So on the budget, and not necessarily this is a budget 1.0 is a challenging document because we don't have everything finalized. So there aren't always as many numbers to give you guys, but I do have some good news I would like to share. I just was made aware from Kristen this week that additional forest funds in the amount of $49,204.80 are coming in this year. And I'm highlighting that, even though we're talking about next year's budget, it was because before I knew that, one of the asks that I had of the board was to consider a $50,000 investment in new technology for students and staff. So my intent was to ask the board to dip into any fund balance by 50,000 to support tech, our PCIA tech. Our students' technology is not where it needs to be. I have a student statement. I'm gonna share it with you guys really quickly. Let me pull it up. I didn't print it, which I probably should have since I'm screen sharing, but I would pull it up this way and read it. Okay. So this is a student statement from an existing PCIA student. As a student at PCIA, I can say that technology plays a huge role in our education every single day. Since we are a STEM-focused innovation academy, we rely on computers for almost everything we do, from class assignments to coding projects and other hands-on technology work. However, the computers we currently use often make learning harder than it should be. Many of them are very slow, have short battery lives, or have broken ports and other hardware problems. We often have to switch to replacement computers that still do not work properly, which lead to lost download, missing files, or lost coding projects. These issues take away valuable learning time and make it harder for us to fully focus on our work. Having new reliable computers would make a huge difference for our school. We would be able to complete assignments more efficiently, move faster in our tech classes, and spend more time learning, creating, and collaborating instead of dealing with tech problems. So I think that ask from the students and that investment in our students would play right into some of the conversations we were just having about being a destination school. So that is one of the asks that I'm gonna have as the budget process moves forward.
So is that a new laptop for every PCIA student?
Yes, and some of the staff as well.
So how many can you get for 50,000?
Depending on how many we do for staff versus students, we would be able to get a
Can you get
full,
as much as probably 15?
we could probably get 20 and plus a few adult.
A $2,500 laptop is
Uh,
is
Yeah, I don't know what
extremely,
it costs
We would
nowadays.
get
is an extremely,
with all,
Is that-
yeah,
even
okay.
hardened, like,
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, that's.
I would
what
say
was
in our
guessing.
huge company, we have maybe 3 people. Now, let's talk about what we don't provide, and one big difference, kids are hard on computers.
yeah.
So we need environmentally hardened computers for kids.
We get the military grade, oh my,
Right.
what they call them.
Duct taped.
But like
A lot of
a
duct tape.
Chromebook, I mean, one thing I'm concerned about though is like the statement. And this is just me heading down a rabbit hole, that like work is lost and I have to redo it. We should be setting up cloud backup on every single.
There is, that is maybe a discussion for a different time as far
Yeah,
as like some
that's
challenges that we
Yeah.
had. But you are not incorrect. So the work is not lost necessarily because of the equipment itself. The work is lost because of some practices.
Of our
Yeah.
internal practices.
There are some upgraded graphics cards that we would need because of our 3D modeling courses like that. So we
Right.
would be able to, for sure, have a new laptop for every PCIe student next year.
But they wouldn't be Chromebooks, right?
No.
Good.
No, the Chromebooks I just did because we got the military grade ones because kids are hard
I
on.
know things add up, but 50,000 a lot for what new computer technology.
Our
I would
teachers
think.
need them too.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
we'd want to see some details. You know,
Sure, but yeah, I mean, it's
when,
fine.
when you're ready.
I
Yeah.
do feel like getting a hardened device, there's 2 approaches, right?
Yeah,
Get extras or get hardened.
yeah. I'm pretty sure the laptops we just bought were over 2,500, but ours were probably significantly different than.
I would very much like to get onto a realistic adoption cycle that keeps all of our students with workable tech. And I realize that 50,000 is a sizable chunk of money, but it would allow us to get the technology that we need into students' hands and get our teachers where they need to be, and then be all caught up to start a more reasonable adoption cycle.
So what would be a reasonable program, like 5 new ones every year? You know, so that we keep everything. up
No, I
to
mean,
date?
historically, in industry, it used to be a 3-year cycle that started to extend to another year or 2 at max. We should not have anything older than 5 years at all
Okay,
in kids' hands. It is interesting, like computing Moore's law, where it used to be like doubles every 3 years. Doesn't apply. It's like, we're not seeing those type of advances. So if you're running on old tech, it's not like you're super underpowered anymore. But the lifespan of laptops and batteries is just,
Yeah.
you start
I guess
having issues.
What it
after-
pushes me to know is, you know, what's it like kind of hardened and cost more
Right,
versus cheap and last longer. I'm not sure that cheap and last not as long.
yeah.
I'm not
replace
sure
more
that's
often.
not the better option.
I don't
Like
think that
it-
that's a better option for our
Okay.
secondary students. I think that that's maybe a better option for our younger students, I would say. Like, that's just from my conversations with, our technology support through ESD, my conversations, with, our tech teacher here, like, there's definitely a difference between like, you know, a 7-year-old who you're like, please don't eat next to your Chromebook, and they spill their water on their Chromebook. Like, right, like, you know, you're gonna go through those more. You've got kids jamming pencils into cameras, like all sorts of things, right? So the turnover is faster versus like a student who might need a more quality laptop that's gonna last them through their high school year. So ideally, I would love to hand a laptop to a freshman and get it back from them when they graduate and put it into the spare.
That would be a pretty good, that would be a pretty good replacement
Strategy.
cycle. You know,
Okay,
it's
cycle,
you know, you get 4
Yeah.
years worth of use and then it fits that other. And you would deal with replacements as you lose kids and add kids
Mhm.
throughout the year.
So figure out
You are gonna see
each
probably
year,
pretty,
take a little bit and put it in the fund.
Mhm.
And then after 4 years, you got it, and you're not taking a big chunk out at once.
well,
So do we sell them then when they're old?
If we can get any money.
If they're worth any money,
what will
we can
happen,
start saving.
what will happen is a 4-year-old laptop is not gonna have the same battery life. That the, you know, and so, and another approach would be to like. There's motivation there to like take care of your laptop.
Mhm.
But another approach would be, get new computers for your juniors, have them have it for 2 years, and then as the freshmen come in, they nurse along, you know, they nurse along those 2-year-old computers and get a new one with their juniors.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, ideally though, we do need to do something. I would strongly advocate, I'm gonna strongly advocate for a tech adoption for the entire PCI for next year, because we do not have the backups right now. We're in rough shape, as far as asking them to limp along. And, I mean, these are students who really need to be able to be doing some of these, computer programming, and they have bigger projects, especially the 3D modeling. And they're just really struggling with broken ports and batteries that don't last, and they're having to plug them in, and they're dying in the middle of class. It is not a $50,000 a year ask in perpetuity. It is let's get a chunk of computers and then get on an adoption cycle.
Right, and I guess that's part of what I'm saying is like, but if we go do 50,000 now, will that just set us up for, 3 or 4 years, and then it's another 50? Like, would it be better to kind of, let's do 25 this year and maybe 25 the next year, and then maybe the next year it's like 15? Like, just to spread it out, I guess, a little with that.
We just adopted K-8 like in the last year and a half, basically.
Mhm.
So if we get this, now we are in that replace a few every year cycle, like for
Okay.
K-12, like, right? So then we've got tech that's all 18 months to new. And so then we can start getting a few at a time. But if we if we wait and we do a few at a time, 4 years from now, we're gonna also have to start getting more Chromebooks, like, right? So if we can just sort of get on this adoption cycle.
But I guess what John's saying, and it wouldn't be exactly right, is. How many seniors do we have next year? 2. How many juniors?
2, 3, maybe.
Yeah, and so like if we bought our juniors and seniors new computers and started buying new computers every year as
Mhm.
people became juniors, that would be like getting us onto a cycle. And we could take, we would still have some spares then, right? Or not?
What we have, what we have now is not what
It's
I
rough.
don't wanna hand a kid next year.
Yeah.
We've got computers being held together with tape.
Do you think that a laptop is like 1,000, 1,500, 2,000? Do we know? Like,
15 to 17 for what the students need, a little bit more for what the instructors
Okay.
need. Most students do take like robotics as freshmen, like, right, robotics is an option for freshmen, and they do start some of that stuff. So, I'm not saying we would spend that full amount. I'm just saying like that would be the amount that would be the most, but we would look at what we can get and where we're gonna land.
Yeah.
And being able as far to be like, okay, this is our year, everyone's gonna get a working computer, and then we're gonna get on an adoption cycle. And it's quite possible that we get more than we need, and then next year we don't buy, we get into that cycle, and we do have a couple spares on the shelf.
So if a student is really getting into programming, would we have 1 or 2 available that would be able to do the type of programming that they're learning?
Like currently, or
Well, no, as we get new equipment.
that's the,
Or are they
yeah.
doing some of their programming on, maybe there's a desktop Linux in the classroom or something?
it's all on their laptops.
And so, having a few that might have more capabilities than others to handle the
Yeah.
programming. And then,
They do a lot of, I mean, a lot of it can be done outside of class too, so they really, I think benefit from having their own machine that they take with them home and stuff like that, if they wanna get in there and look at it.
And then would they all have Word and Excel?
We have Microsoft Tenant. Now,
So rather than have a computer at school, a desktop, the benefit is so they can take their computer home and do work at home.
Yeah, we don't have any student desktops. Other than that, we have some that stay in the classroom that all kids can use for certain projects or not, do we not have any?
the younger students have Chromebooks available to them in the classroom, but they don't take them.
But we have no desktop.
No desktops,
Yeah.
no, not for students.
But they would last longer than a laptop, right?
Of course, but part of what, part of the experience and part of the benefit of the experience and the unique experience is you're coming to a computer or to a school where we're embracing tech. We're allowing, teaching you how to operate in a modern environment. Having tech at home and not just at school to work on your homework is would be considered an equity issue, right? It's like we have kids who don't have tech at home and can't do their tech homework at home, and we're giving them classes that requires that they do that. And so
Okay.
it's important. I would like to see, I guess part of the option, the way that this would get phased maybe is like, as the class size and the PCIA grows, we're only buying computers for next year's enrollment, which is a much smaller enrollment. And so if we end up back in the high 20s, eventually, we're
Right.
looking at maybe 15 computers next year, right? And then another 10
Yeah.
in our cycle. So it's not that much higher than our cycle for the full school. Are you saying all the instructors or some instructors need new computers next year? Cause that would be a place where it'd be nice to like cycle through new computers for.
I think we would have to take a better inventory of exactly where people are at, but there are at least 3 that they need a new computer, like need.
Yeah.
That being said, one thought, possibly, like I said, I did not know that we were getting any additional federal force funds, and it happens to be very close to the threshold I was hoping to ask for. Next year's budget does not start in time for me to have the tech for the first day of school. So should the board be so inclined to say we should have it for them on the first day of school, we may consider using the federal forest money that came in this year's budget to purchase over the summer and have the technology set up and ready to go. Just a thought.
We shouldn't do it unless we're gonna have it.
Yeah.
Already.
Unless what?
And then, giving the kids new computers 2 months into the school year doesn't seem ideal, right?
It's not, but
Yeah.
it is better than having a computer that doesn't work. Ideal would be if we bought them with this year's money and handed them.
It seems like getting it with this year's money is.
Yeah, yes, we want to be like, look at each year's budget, but part of the reason we maintain a balance for our school, whether we spend it this year or next year, doesn't make any difference in the long-term fiscal situation for our district. And so, if we choose to move forward with it, I would sure be an advocate that we'd want to get it done in time for the school year.
I'd be happy to bring a quote to the next board meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of a plan along the lines of, incorporating some of the things we've talked about would be good. I'm not against, doing this year. My mind goes a little bit to like, I don't think that's gonna cause us to need any sort of supplemental budget, cause I'm sure we have room somewhere.
Right, well, that's my point. We didn't expect to receive any federal forest money. This would cover it.
No, we're not talking about actual cash in, we're talking about what we've budgeted for expenditures.
But because we have that contingency.
Yeah, that's where we're.
Yeah, we have a grant line item.
Okay,
That
so we
we-
would charge
that
it
we
to the
will-
contingency.
Yes,
Yeah.
right.
The other things that we're looking at in budget, version 1 is, moving another 200,000 to the capital projects fund. This budget assumes 2.6 IPD for all staff. And it does, include an adjustment to salary based on, our recent hire. We don't have, our insurance rates have been updated and we're still waiting on ESD contract rates. And the title program allocations are not yet available.
Sean, just a clarification, we
So
don't have to charge it for
200,000.
contingency. We only have to
We
rebudget.
did once
if we go
already.
over
The grand total.
The grand total of each
We will have
side.
done it twice by the end of.
We
this
still put it in the right
And
check.
this will be.
In the right
your-
That'll put us at 6.
We would show negative in that category
And I will explain why. on
and
those.
also positive in the appropriate category for the
Yeah.
correspondence.
So I think because of where we are with still not having finalized numbers, I think that 4 years budget is probably a better view for tonight. And then, as those things get more finalized in budget version 2.0, hopefully even by next week. But for sure by our, June budget workshop will be a lot more detailed. So kind of along the line of what we were talking about before, the initial tech, and then that would shift to 25 in subsequent years to get on a adoption cycle. The 4 year budget also takes into effect that at the end of the 26-27 school year, we're retiring a position, so that is reflected in the 27-28 budget. And then there is also an added $10,000 to for retirement on the 29-30 budget for some agreements that were made. You can see that I've got the 200,000 to capital funds project for this current year, for the 26-27, and that will get us to, did I put it on the next slide? It did. That would get us to roughly a $600,000 balance if we do it. When we move this money over, we'll be at a roughly 4. If we do it again next year, we would be at about 600. We did get an estimate on a portable. So it was either early this year or last year. Purchasing a new one, site preparation and installation was in the neighborhood of 500,000. So we would need to do that again next year to be able to purchase one.
Did any become of the white salmon portables?
When they are up for grabs, we will be reaching out.
Okay.
We've been working really hard to get some of the used ones, yeah.
Sweet.
Ideally, we would love to add 2 portables out there.
Mhm.
If we can get, 1 or 2 for free, great. If we can get 1 for free and then still have the capacity to purchase the second one. But having 2 and running water so that we can have a bathroom and some lab space out there would be ideal.
Mhm. Okay.
So. That'd be 600,000, but we haven't spent any of that, have we?
No, it's waiting until we decide
Saving
to
it
do
for
something.
affordable.
Yeah, we need to have that
Or
much
2
before we
portables,
can
yeah.
move forward with a portable, cause it's gonna be in the neighborhood of 500,000 when we do make that purchase.
Kelly, do you know what kind of in the out years or the later years, what kind of assumptions are used for kind of inflationary costs? Particularly personnel, and like, are we just using the IPD rate or?
Is that just like
what's
a
inflating the cost?
wild guess, or what are we doing on the IPD and
It
MS?
is,
Is
I wouldn't
Kristen
call it a
doing
wild
that?
guess, I would call it a business
Educated.
manager's educated guess. This is, Kristen puts this
Kristen,
together for
yeah.
us. So I think.
What would Kristen call it?
Magic 8 ball? No, yeah, it does, John, to your question, it does, assume IPD inflationary costs for, salaries and whatnot, and then, she's got the MSOC estimate there too, to match.
Okay. And fair to say that typically the actual IPD or the actual things that we would pay, I guess, the real costs that we would incur are gonna be above
Correct,
the state level IPD.
correct.
So that's gonna tend to probably, I would say, make these out years look a little rosier than what they likely would be.
Yes,
Okay.
so, I just looked it up for a different purpose. For example, the state, what they budget for us to have IP, for FTE for salaries. And then what we get the IPD increase on is significantly less than our actuals.
Yeah.
So, and that is not even to say with the step increase, right? So like, even if the salary didn't move up a step, our actual average salary is significantly higher than what the state allocates for a full FTE. So when they put a 2.6% increase on the allocation and we have to put a 2.6 increase on the actual,
Yeah.
that alone creates a further gap.
Yeah.
And then we also move up a step, which creates a larger gap.
Yeah, which is not probably reflected in here, I'm understanding.
Not to
Yeah.
great detail in the further
Okay.
years. It's just a
Cause I think that is just a fundamental source of pressure, maybe the number one issue for the long run
yes.
is that disconnect.
Yeah.
With our attendance and we got instructors that got a lot of free time is what I'm picking up. Do we need the new pods outside?
I think ideally, we want to continue to always operate as though we're gonna be able to, go where we want to go. I think that we don't have a history of being extremely low on enrollment for several years consistently. I think we kind of hit a weird spot where we graduated the largest class ever, and the two classes below it were smaller. And then the class we rolled in this year is kind of closer to the average. So in those 2 years, in like last year's freshman class of 1, right? And the freshman class before that, that was like 3, maybe 4, the year before I got here. Those were historically smaller. And if we consistently have 6 or 7, then our enrollment numbers go back up. We just have this spot where we didn't roll in large classes and now they're upperclassmen, and so we don't have as many. And it's harder to get upperclassmen to transfer in. They're set, they're playing sports, they're doing all of those things, but we have been actively recruiting and trying to do that as well.
That's a good point in trying to bring in kids at the upper level classes.
It may at some level take some of the urgency off, but I think planning for where we want to operate before we're back at a level that it's impeding the learning environment would be ideal.
Yeah. I think we need to be prepared for this to just be a low year. And then we'll just continue to be back on track, but we want to maintain as much consistency as possible, and while being responsible is kind of the way I am approaching it and making my recommendations. And I think that's the last thing on the agenda other than next workshops.
So along a positive line, or at least I hope it's positive, I arranged for Kevin Waters, who is our state representative, to come out and meet with Kelly and learn about our need for the modernization grant that we are on a list with the legislature to receive, so that he can champion us at the legislature and get us that funding. He was successful at getting Stevenson's funding this year, and so I made sure that, because I know Kevin fairly well, and made sure that he has the opportunity to learn about us, and so he can champion us.
Yeah,
So he will be here tomorrow. And I think that's really important because he'll also talk to our other representative and to our senator and make sure everybody is aware of Millet and what Millet's needs in. And we have some very critical needs when it comes to safety and security, especially.
Yes. I would just have one closing thought of just continuing to encourage everyone to go out and let the whole world know how great it is here. And how we have the most amazing staff and the amazing students, and that we would love to talk to their families about how we might be a good fit. I think the advocates for the district are some of the best opportunities we have to make our enrollment more consistent. I think that the better we speak about and project ourselves to the community, the better it is for students, staff, and the community in general.
So does everyone have this?
Yes.
So this is just a first draft of the rest of our year for a schedule. And so, at the next meeting, we'll probably want to, continue to schedule workshops. Kelly will let us know what she thinks she needs. But this is our timeline that we have to meet for getting our budget in place and meet the deadlines. Unless you want to schedule a meeting tonight, but
My calendar is probably a lot more open than your calendars, so I will defer to you.
well, I need to go get my calendar while you guys can talk about. The last Monday in May is Memorial Day, so that's why I just put June on here, but if we think we need another one, we would wanna pick one probably in May.
Next week is a
I'll be
regular
right back.
board meeting.
Yes.
What would be the natural next iteration in your mind, Kelly, for? Like,
So much of it
Religion.
depends on Kristen and when she gets information. I mean, I've had all of my conversations with her about needs, changes and adjustments that I believe we need to make. And so really right now, we're in that like final, like waiting on our, like the insurance costs and things like that. To be able to do those last tweaks, but like she knows what the big priorities are, like what the expenses for curriculum, my ask for tech. You know, those types of things, right? So, we assumed IPD on all salaries, across the board. So I think it's mostly her getting her final numbers before I can hand you a robust document.
So Eric, before I forget, you're still available to be chair at the next meeting?
Yep.
Thank you.
I do think though, John, like in the next like week or so, 2 weeks, we will start to have at least enough to put something more substantial together. Her and I spent 2 hours on a Zoom. At the end of last week, finalizing everything we could, but we just still don't have, there's still so many variables that it's hard to present something that
yeah,
we know is gonna change.
yeah.
But these were just some of the budget items and I'll have a longer one for you at the next meeting.
So like, I mean. We could target that Monday, June 1st as the first meeting, and then if we needed, we could have a follow-up a week later on the 8th. We're
I will
planning
be,
to approve by the 15th.
I will be flying back from North Dakota on Monday, June 1st.
Exciting.
Graduation is the week. No, it's after, never mind,
Graduation is that Friday.
it's after, never mind.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Thank
be
you.
in
Thank you. for
Montana
being
the first
gone
week of
first,
June, my
actually.
grandson's graduating.
My niece is
And
getting
the
married.
8th is okay with me at least. Well, both those dates are okay with me, but the first one doesn't look like it.
Sunday evening.
So should we plan for the 8th then as one placeholder?
I think the 8th, yeah, I should have,
Let's do it, yeah, tentatively late.
Okay, and then what about,
there should not be many shifts between the 8th and the 15th. So what you get on the 8th will be
semifinal, yeah.
quite similar, so pretty much at that point, it would be any adjustments that the board wanted made that I would be bringing to you on the 15th, in other than things that Kristen just doesn't have yet.
Do we need 2 more meetings or do you think 1?
I think it would be, because we're so close to the next regular board meeting and there's quite a few things that we don't have final numbers for. I do think it would be good to put one before the June 15th in case there's anything that gets put on there that you guys want to.
No, I'm saying like,
But that would be the 8th,
if that would be the 8th.
Yeah, oh, yes, sorry, I thought you meant, do we need the 8th? Because
No, do we need a meeting and the 8th? And I guess maybe what we could do to really help benefit that is if we could not discuss it, but send out kind of like where we're at around that first. or would we have something so that we can look at it and come prepared to see it?
Perfect.
Ahead of time, I think that would really
can
help.
do
make
that
it
for
more
you.
Valuable.
And then any adjustments that you guys would like made, if you tell me on the 8th, I'll have them for you on the 15th.
Okay, so June 8th, we will have a workshop. And we can, finalize that at our meeting next week. So. Cool.
Yeah, sounds good.
Anyone have anything else? Any other comments or questions?
Not for me.
All right, thank you very much for coming out this evening. I thought it would be a little shorter, but you never know what's going on and what's going to happen. And it's really important we keep our plans here for next year and get it going as fast as possible for students. Any last words, Kelly? All right.
Changes on its own.
Adjourned at, what is it, 8:06? Thank you, Jessica.